I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
Really understanding myself, why I feel a certain way, and what those feelings are doing for me. Like, I really try to understand that. There's always this constant stream of ideas, melodies, visuals, philosophical ideas. But I can't, as far as specifics, I just know right now I have to go. In rap, being or holding the title of greatest rapper alive is a goal of mine. Like, being the one seed. I had this one that goes like, do what you want, do what you need to do, but do them both well.
What's up, my fellow dreamers, doers, achievers? This is episode number 27 of the Dream Big & Co. podcast. And before we get to talking about the artist, rapper, writer, creative, entrepreneur, thinker, and learner, Marcus Charles, the quote for this episode is twofold. First, by Reid Hoffman, when he said, "What you are when you're small gets amplified when you're big." And as you probably noticed within the intro, Marcus Charles once said, "Do what you want, do what must be done, but do them both well." And to sort of summarize this entire episode into one concise sentence, I would say it is the most present I've ever been in a conversation in my life. And that's no small thing. The reason is obviously a compilation of what Marcus had to say, how interested and curious I actually was in the topics that we discussed, such as external pressure, intention, love for one's craft, purpose, his upcoming album 25%, humility, empathy, ego, spirituality, volition, and future aspirations. And as for Marcus himself, he is from Rockland County, where his main objectives are becoming the best artist possible and the best individual possible. Since the age of 12, he has developed a deep rapture and passion for music production, and in taking the untraditional route, he continues to evolve in his own way, which allows him to shed light on many things. To date, he has released 2 albums, On a Hill, In the Trees, and Kill Mode. He has another one releasing, like I just said, this summer called 25%. And lastly, please do me a huge favor and be as present as possible wherever you are when listening to this. Trust me, you will learn a lot. And like was mentioned in the episode, as we learn, as we discuss these conversations, as we go back and forth over many things, you will learn as well. So let's do it together. Let's finish this episode together with Marcus Charles, episode number 27. Love the idea of this video too.
The staff's for me.
I
So
love that, yeah.
the staff was supposed to be more involved. It broke. Like, that wasn't on purpose.
Really?
Yeah, so we had to kind of work around it.
No way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I was pissed at the moment. I was like, damn, there was so much, cause I like went out and practiced, like, to get good at it. And we only filmed the part of me, like, purposely struggling. So I was pissed. Like, I wanted to fucking
Yeah.
shit. Like, I was doing some behind the back stuff.
I get caught up in the moment. I gotta think about the future. I got value, no I'm super. My confidence is boiling over. Might flip off a state trooper. I might climb the tallest tower. If you jump, they call you coward. If you don't, they call you coward. Being on edge will give you power. This is all a game of sacrifice. What would you give to live in paradise? Sometimes I dream feel like a parasite. Sometimes I dream feel like a parasite. If I keep dreaming when I stay broke, I know some people in the same boat. Aspirations of a blue sea, but gotta worry about staying afloat. These expectations won't meet themselves. My tension, I have to feed themselves. I feel compelled to break the spell. I swear we leveling up to the sun. We propel like I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I won't let you down.
Yeah.
I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I won't let you down. I won't let you down.
So, as you probably know from that song, this is Marcus Charles, and this is one of my favorite songs beyond just Go Time and Let It Speak. But for the people that don't know you, and my audience probably doesn't, can you introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about that song, the process of making it, maybe even making the video itself?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Marcus Charles. I just go by my real name. Nothing else really fit. And it's kind of like the basis of who I am as an artist. Like just being yourself, putting out the messages that you believe in. Well, the music video, I had this idea of wanting to train. This song is about not letting your family and friends down, or the people who believe in you and want to see you succeed, and dealing with those pressures and not wanting to fail them. You know. Mm-hmm. So I had this idea of wanting to train, and I thought, well, what if I was a monk and I had a staff, like, and I was, people wouldn't be expecting me to like start spinning a staff out of nowhere. So I got a staff. I took some days to like practice some moves or whatever, and I got pretty good at it. But when we shot the video, like I said, it broke. So we had to kind of work around right before it broke at the time when I was supposed to start getting good in the video, like getting good with it. So it broke at that time. So I really didn't get to like show off how I wanted to. But like the third part of the video, where it's in the all white room, is supposed to be kind of my transformation, like all my training. Was leading up to that point and becoming essentially and metaphorically what I know I can be, and being able, like a being that, or a person who is able to fulfill the promises I put on myself and the wishes of, you know, my loved ones, my close friends and stuff.
Yeah, so going outside the actual music video itself, can you talk about that sort of playing out in reality? Like, is there pressure at times from people around you, if you want to talk to that fact? And, like, is there any pressure to yourself? Because I know we talked about this before, where you're doing something you love, there's really no pressure there, but I'm sure there's external stuff going on, just like you said with this whole video. So how is that? How is sort of dealing and coping with those things?
Right. Well, so the album that I'll be putting out soon is not about me, but about general experiences that a person my age would go through. So yes, I have dealt with and I feel like everybody does. If you have people, anybody in your life, whether it be a teacher, a mentor, a friend, a family member, who wants to see you succeed, you don't want to let them down. Although you want your own success.
Yeah, it should
for
be
yourself.
Intrinsic. Yeah.
You also don't want to. You want to succeed for other people as well, and fulfill those. I guess those pressures. You want to meet those pressures. So yeah, I think that's always existed. It's not about really like I want to like a stunt on people. That's not really what the song is about. It's more like for your family and friends or your close ones, not a stranger that doesn't necessarily understand your passion.
Yeah. And for you, since like first time I saw you and then just like spending time with you before recording, like you're a super, super intentional person, really purpose driven. And what is your sort of intention with everything you're doing with rap? Like a main purpose that you have that's kind of driving you forward?
Well, I've known since, I guess, when I first started really pursuing music, that I wanted to make music, more notably hip hop music, more musical. I wanted to bring, I wanted to bring elements to the genre that I would have liked to listen to. More musicianship and more like I used to have this.
So it's a need you felt, like a problem you had, and you wanted to kind of fix that, but also obviously loving like.
Yeah, I mean, as
rap.
as a fan of the music, these are things like albums I gravitate towards are like magnum opuses, like the masterful works. But like, for example, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West is like, from start to finish, it's like an incredible body of work. J. Cole's Forest Hills Drive, outside of hip hop, Frank Ocean's Channel Orange, like start to finish, like these are the kinds of works, or at least the caliber of works that I wanted to create. And I saw a lot of rap just felt like rapping on beats to me, as opposed to music at times. So that's one thing. Another part of that, I guess, intention or focus is just my own love for to create. I know I can. Like I'm bugged. At every second, or I don't want to use the word bothered, but there's always this constant stream of ideas, whether melodies, visuals, philosophical ideas. And I believe that it has to be shared. Like there's something about what I have to say that isn't just passive. Like I can't believe that there's no way that this thing inside me is disposable.
Yeah. You're like sharing your craft with other people, and it's kind of funny how it works out where it's like a full circle with the next album you have coming out, because it's like people's stories and like sharing what they've been going through. Right,
how I was telling you earlier, like my first project was just about me and my story, basically like telling my story up until that point. The one after that was giving more insight into my beliefs, my core beliefs. More specifically, my motivation, and that's something that other people could relate to, like being just motivated in anything in their respective fields or endeavors. And now this one is not my story at all. Although I can relate to and have been inspired by my own experiences, these songs are not necessarily unique to me. There's something that everybody can, or, you know, probably would go through, you know.
Yeah, so if you, people listening, if you didn't resonate with his music before, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it in the show notes. But if you haven't resonated with what he did before, you definitely will now, because especially the age group, because everyone's going through this stuff.
Right. Let's just speak a little bit about the album. It's called 25%. It's about the 25% mark of a person's life. So like the quarter life crisis, making that transition into adulthood. So all the songs revolve around that theme. So like I said, it's not necessarily my story. I'm in this part of my life, so I can relate to these topics. And like I said, I drew inspiration from my own experience, but they're not. It's not just Marcus Charles. It's not just me.
Dude, I really want to cut you off for a sec, because this really sort of sparked in me that, well, like, I really sort of gravitated towards everything you've been doing, and especially the music, because, like, I can relate to it, and during a time when I kind of was dealing with some things, you sort of helped me come back to myself.
That's awesome.
You know, and that's like the goal. That's one of the goals that you want, and you're doing that. And I resonated with that fully. So for you, when you were younger, maybe going through some things, I know the order of how you should handle things should be sort of, even if you don't believe in those things or not, it's God, yourself, then other people. Or maybe just yourself, then other people. But like, were there people that you resonated with their music that sort of helped you during times when you didn't know certain things?
Time?
Yeah. And on the same token, can you talk about maybe artists that inspire you and sort of make you want to elevate your craft, which I'm sure is Kanye West is one. But.
Right. Yeah. So to the first part, I don't think there was a project that really that I felt like was telling my story when I was listening to it. But even if it wasn't specifically telling it or talking about things that I was going through, it still helped me through those times. Just because I like the music, and it was music is like a healing
it really is
tool for sure. So it didn't necessarily need to be about what I was going through. But to your second part, like those albums that I mentioned before, those like what I consider it's like magnum opuses of like Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Forest Hills Drive. I'm like acid rap. I was very into that. Chance the Rapper.
Yeah.
The Carter 3. Because I like to listen to albums, not necessarily like certain songs. Just because I like to appreciate the whole body of work and try to understand what the artist is really going for. So yeah.
So did you, for making your albums now, did you draw some inspiration from those same people and albums, or and obviously with your own twist?
Yeah, well, I think all those albums or those artists are like teachers, and you never. It's more like you're taking bits of things along the way. So essentially, like, my favorite albums are gonna be part of everything I do in the future, in some aspect, until like my inspiration changes completely. Not to say that I'm trying to make certain songs, because I never aim to do that. But as far as, like I said, having a work that start to finish can move you. Like every song sounding different. That's also like another thing that I've drawn from those albums. And being really, passionate in what you're talking about. These are just things general that don't really apply to the sonics of the music, but like lessons that I've learned from analyzing music.
Yeah. And then sort of going back to the point of like pressures in a way. I know you're someone who forwent college. Like you decided not to go to college, and you decided to just put all of your eggs into one basket.
Yep.
And make art, and whatever analogy you want to use, with burning the boats, having no plan B, eggs in one basket. What was that sort of? Did you get any backlash from wanting to do that, or like what was that like when you saw other people around you doing the norm and you being isolated? And I know you're someone who like actually appreciates and thrives with isolation. So I'm sure it wasn't that hard, but I'm just really interested to hear like what that process was like.
Okay, so I knew what I had to do. I think I told my parents. My parents are supportive. But I told my parents, I think when I was a sophomore in high school, that I didn't want to go to college to pursue music.
You knew it that early?
I think I knew for a while.
Wow.
But that was probably like the time. That was when I think I kind of built up enough courage to tell them that. My mom's an educator, and I was like a honor student. I was an athlete. Going to college was in the cards for me. My dad got a full scholarship to Duke. He played football, so like that college was already a thing. Like there wasn't. If I hadn't said anything, there would have been no doubt about me.
Yes, you really had to build up a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, that, and also, so when I told them, at first, they were, shocked or whatever. Like, you want to be a rapper? That's kind of, they're thinking it's like a phase or something. But in actuality, it's been, it was premeditated and thought about for a long time. I told them I wanted to pursue music in middle school, so they knew I was like into music, but I guess they didn't know how serious I was. And then until 2 years later, after I told them I didn't want to go, was when I put out my first project, and they really haven't heard a lot of my music until I put that out. But they were seeing the work I was putting in. Like I have you've seen the workspace upstairs. I've just been in that room making music, and they saw the hours I was putting in. And when I put that out, they understood what was happening. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's the sort of backlash that I got from that. But I had to prove myself to them. As far as my peers in school, I never saw myself in their shoes. I always felt different, even aside from what I was into. I just always felt like I wasn't like the people I was around. Yeah. So that wasn't that's not something that I really had to deal with, because I already knew I felt different about myself already, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't really anything.
What I always love talking about is, and you do this really well, is you always go back to yourself in order to not only improve the areas of your life, but impact other people. So like also that, like you really had a true belief in yourself, and that's important because no one else will believe in you unless you do. And then on top of that, with that equation is like putting in the work to show. So like you put those things together, and then it compiled to like, all right, this is for real, this is happening. And then from there, it's just like been a continual process. But what is it like seeing sort of, do you listen to your old music? Like,
yeah.
Like, what is it like seeing sort of that transformation? Because you don't like to talk about the past too much because you focus on the present and future. But what is it like looking at your sort of evolution, transformation through the past couple of years to see where you're at? And even if like you don't, can you talk about like focusing on the present and like your mindset with that? Because it's really awesome or much needed for people.
Well, I think for me, like I enjoy listening to my first project, because I feel like there's something about, I guess, a certain kind of something I felt like I needed to prove, or even though like it wasn't heard by many, but at the same time, it was a different feeling. As far as the growth from now, hours upon hours from that time. So my skill set is much broader. So you can appreciate things, I guess, different aspects of the music at different times. I would say compared to my first project and the one that I'm going to put out, 25%, is they both have something unique about them, especially for the time, like the mental space I was in, creating them. I'm always trying to say something, so whatever that something is, multiplied by my state of mind, creates that unique spark in the music,
Definitely. Yeah.
But like I said, from that time, like I've just grown a lot as an artist.
Yeah, can we talk? That actually works out perfectly. I wanted to talk about the actual growth and the skill set you acquired. Can you talk about the Terminus recording studio? You got your audio engineering certificate from that? Because
right.
you, I'm excited for this album coming out because it's all original, no features, and you create all your own beats, correct? Or produce them?
For this project, I did, yep.
That is just, I think, downright, hands down amazing. But
Thank you.
Can you talk about how you got to that point, from getting the certificate to where you are now?
Right. So, in music, the certificate means nothing.
Okay. I don't know too much.
Yeah, it's just about whether or not, when you have an opportunity, whether or not you can make good enough music. But that class, the course I took meant a lot. It was like a hands-on course, so it felt like an internship. I learned a lot from being there, and I applied those skills, or that knowledge rather, to my daily routine, which is waking up, thinking about what I want to say. Or pulling from that constant stream I was talking about earlier, and in creating music, knowledge can come from many different forms. I think for a while I was looking at YouTube videos, whatever I wanted to, certain techniques I wanted to use in my music, and I didn't know how to go about it. Just look it up, figure it out. Or, I stumble upon something while experimenting, or, refining
it's
skills.
A constant, curiosity.
Yeah, a constant curiosity, and just, again, maintaining, some kind of goal, or some kind of message, rather. Because if I need to say something, I feel like I need to say something, I need to say it in the right way. I need to phrase it the right way. I need the production to complement what I'm saying, right? That's how, you should go about it, to make all the pieces align. Definitely. So bringing that experience at, it was at Terminus. They changed the name now. I forgot. I don't know what the new name is, but it was formerly known as Terminus Recording Studios. That the time I spent there and basically learning how to be an audio engineer played a big part in what I'm doing, because And I could do it all myself, you know. I can record myself here.
Yeah, you know all like the ingredients that's going in, so you can make this like
I don't need anybody else to create, to make music.
Yeah, and that's just different in and of itself and within the industry, because a lot of people have collaborations and features. So to produce everything, I mean, have no features, but then also produce it all. That's really cool. Yeah, I admire that. Yeah, but then talking about the thing you said with goals, how do you sort of, what is your goal setting equation in a way, or like how do you look at things you want to achieve and then take the steps to getting there? Like, are you very like you look at the macro all the time and like it's a slow process, or like do you focus on the little things and like the micro to getting there? Just because we talked about it before as well, but
yeah, I think
highlighting that.
Well, on the day-to-day, you can't work in the macro. That's not how goals are met. You work in the micro, right? So I think it's unavoidable to think about the little steps, the baby steps in you know, achieving your overall goal. But keeping that big goal in mind, it's not even like it's in mind, because that kind of sounds like I'm belittling it. That's all, because that's all there is. It's really just the big goal. Yeah, that's it. Keeping that big goal is what retains my drive and my focus. Like I said before, when we were talking, like I can't celebrate minor victories just because I don't even have a desire to do that.
Yeah.
I don't feel accomplished with a baby step.
No, the baby steps are important, but it's cool to see that because you always focus on the next thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't let it, like you said before, make you complacent, which is where a lot of people can maybe sort of die, like metaphorically.
Yeah. It's weird to talk about because how do I say it? Complacency will get you killed, especially in music. Like I don't feel any joy from just one little goal met. Like and maybe to achieve like as overall happiness, ultimate happiness, I would probably need to change that mindset. But for right now, I'm just worried about what's the next thing, because I can't like some joy, and like from a moral standpoint or like a universal right and wrong is not it's not conducive to my career.
Yeah.
Like
because you're not where you want to be.
It's secondary.
Yeah.
It's secondary to the goal.
Yeah.
Some, happiness. It seems kind of like it's trivial almost to me.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, like, well, for one, I totally love that. But for two, like, I think happiness, the way it's phrased nowadays, it seems like you have to reach a certain point to have that. But I feel like you're even like being through this process, you are like happy and like doing what you love. So like happiness at times is like a state of being.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I totally agree with like an ultimate happiness of where you want to end up and like the amount of people you want to impact. You have to reach a certain level to do so.
Right.
But I totally agree with that. And like you're definitely taking the steps to get there, because like seeing you sort of on the outskirts myself through the past couple months, like when things occur, like you are a man of your word, that you don't let them sort of stifle you, or like you don't let it inflate your own ego. Like you stay humbled. So this one question I wanted to ask out of just like plain curiosity and interest is, what do you do when that stuff comes about? Like, is there a process? Like, do you meditate at all by any chance? Okay. So, like, what do you do to sort of come back to yourself if you ever find yourself off path?
When you mean that stuff, you mean hardships?
I would say hardships, or like even success. If anything does get to your head or inflate your ego too much.
How do you grounded? Or
yes.
How do I stay grounded? It's kind of like a double-sided coin, because I believe you need to see yourself a certain way in order to. It's kind of like an element of the drive, seeing yourself, then like knowing what you're capable of.
So like being the observer of yourself.
Not so much of an observer of yourself, but I don't want to detach this feeling from the self, but like being your biggest supporter in a way. I know that sounds cliche, but it's like having an ego.
Yeah,
I don't believe is a bad. It's
thing. Always there.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be. It needs to be listened to.
Yeah.
At the same time, like humility is sort of like, how do you describe it? Being humble is like it for other people and everybody looking in from the outside. It makes them more comfortable with what you're doing. And in order to not for it to be ingenuine, but you need to be humble, and you need to have humility in order to have empathy. It's like a gateway for empathy and understand others.
Damn, that's good.
Because like,
yeah,
if you can't understand others, you're gonna be lost in yourself.
Okay.
But at the same time, you need to get lost in yourself at times and feed that ego to know that what you're doing, it has a purpose, that you're not doing things for naught.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, for yourself, humility is the really only, it's not like, it doesn't just trump ego for me.
It's not just like, yeah, ego's really high, let me like be humble and I'll be okay.
I don't think that doesn't make sense to me, because if you don't have an ego, then you're not gonna be pushing for anything.
Yeah, and I think, well, for one, I kind of got my mind blown because I'm thinking about, like, I just love the way you phrase that. But I feel like appreciating and also embracing the ego, because the one analogy I love to use, it's like oftentimes with like both ego and like struggles, people run away from their own shadow. But you can't run away from your own shadow. You have to turn around and face it so it can go away. So I feel like it's just as important, like we talked about before. I love how these things are boiling up to the surface. Like, just as important as success is, failure should be looked at with a similar light and be appreciated. Like, these things should all be appreciated so you understand where it's coming from and where your mind's at. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the same concept of failure, success, and humility and your ego, because they're both, in both situations, the two need each other. It's like one can't really survive. Well, at least you're whatever field you're in, whatever you're trying to pursue, I can't see you achieving whatever that is in a state of greatness, at least, without having both.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's just like anything. It's like a darkness to a light. Like, you need one to have the other.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, failure and success is a more black and white concept, because like you need to succeed in order to, and you grow, you grow from your failures. But with, humility and your ego, it's like, and for some reason we have this idea that just you're not supposed to be cocky. Like, you're just supposed to, stay humble, stay grounded, and that's how you're supposed to, go about your life, right? Mm-hmm. But what is humility doing for me besides becoming like overly confident? If I and even overconfidence is not even a bad thing, because you could take certain risks without thinking you're taking a risk, and land on the mark. Yeah. But it's like humility isn't doing much for a person besides from protecting you from getting carried away. If you already have a certain focus, mm-hmm. then your ego is gonna boost you. The only thing left, like I said, is that comfort for everybody else with humility. Like me being humble and me saying, like being wishy-washy when I'm talking to you about my accomplishments of what I'm capable of, mm-hmm. what I can do, is just making that person feel comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that's a good thing. You don't want to put anybody off, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where being humble comes into play. And like I said, if you're not genuine, then it's gonna be somebody's gonna see right through you. Well, so understanding why the layers of humility is, I think, the truth of the matter, what you need to do, rather than just being humble for the sake of being humble. Understanding what both aspects do for you in your life specifically, mm-hmm. I think is the key to benefiting from both.
People need to ask better questions, and people need to go deeper. I feel like people are so surface level with things that they don't truly understand themselves, thus they're not able to understand the world. And even like if you want to get into the hip-hop industry, like a lot of the lyrics people use are surface level, and mm-hmm. they have no meaning. That's why it always goes back to intention, which you do a great job of. That's why it's felt through your music. So I always feel like it's just a matter of going a little bit deeper, but people are afraid to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're talking about with lyrics in general? I mean, yes, I intertwine those, but like I see it both with like the rap with lyrics, mm-hmm. and just like people in general when dealing with emotions. Yeah, I mean, you can't, I guess for me, really understanding myself, why I feel a certain way, and what those feelings are doing for me, is what I really try to understand that, because then, aside from inspiration from music and like deeper storytelling, just as a person, I can navigate and take charge of my own energy better that way. Yeah. Go ahead. I wanted to say, it's your full focus is on being an artist, mm-hmm. but I would say your full focus is actually like being the best version of yourself possible. Yeah. Because you said like art and like music is a tool to becoming a better person. So like what you're doing is actually becoming a better individual, but like music allows you to do that. Did I say that? To understand yourself. I remember seeing something, was it on the description of your website, that like the whole goal is just to understand your strengths and weaknesses better and understand yourself better, and music is like an instrument to allow you to do such things. No, I just came up with that. Oh, okay. That like your focus is, well, yeah, like, you know what I mean. No, don't think you did. I just realized that. I was trying to understand what you're saying. But yeah, I think music, to me, music and art is more than I don't want to call it a tool, because
it's like my whole existence. But essentially, yeah, like you would use a tool beforehand to create the finished product. But for me, I think about my finished product and then describe it in music. Although sometimes, yeah, like I'm in a session and the emotions I'm feeling when writing lyrics or coming up with ideas, and that in that moment, yeah, I because music is powerful. You could, and it could be creating it could be an emotional experience if you're,
like immersed in it.
Yeah, if you're immersed in it, and that emotional experience can reveal things about yourself that you didn't know before.
Exactly.
Yeah, but understanding how life works, how I can work it, and how the universe interacts with me, with other people, how other people interact with other people is what I really think about, and it just helps me. Like that's the sort of thing I cling to.
Yeah,
the philosophy behind life. Like some people, there's a bunch of things. There's a list of things that people can be addicted to. I think that's my addiction, really. Trying to get to the core of what's really happening in like the forces that be, like what's really going on, because it's not just surface level, like you said. It's there's so many different like other layers to the things we talk about on a daily basis that are not talked about.
Exactly, dude. And like, I really want to get your point on this, because it's with your future album. I know you said you wanted to really tap into more spiritually so you can understand those things, but I feel like, would you say in the masses, with like everything we have going on, the access to information for everything, like people are becoming more aware, and like do you see a sort of like spiritual evolution in a way, like on the brink at all? Because that's when people are really going to start to understand themselves and other people more, because I feel like that's where we're headed. Because before, like, relationships haven't been as deep as they used to, or like company culture used to be very surface level and like very malice, where like now like empathy is a conversation, and like compassion is really being talked about. And like people, with everything they're seeing that's going on, they have a lot of awareness of where the world is going and how people are acting. So I feel like just those ingredients itself will add to the pot of people becoming more like, you can, in quotes, like spiritually heightened, Yeah,
I mean, well, first off, I want to say, like, what I mean by spirituality, it's just something, a connection with something that's bigger than yourself, like the forces.
I'm so happy you framed it that way.
Yeah, I refer to like just forces that be, like, people can call whatever those forces or force is by a certain name. They could attach certain like ancient stories to it, but at the end of the day, I believe that it's all the same thing, whatever that, that some people call it a being, some people call it like a collection of gods that represent different things. And I just think I can't, for me personally, I'll never really claim to know what it is, or what the name of that is, or if it's, if it lived once. I just think it, or if it needs to be praised. I'm not sure about that either, but I just think it's there, and it affects people. And then if you could tap into it, you could really, you could achieve and perform at a high level, or higher level.
Well, that's a never-ending quest, to be honest. Like, you'll never, there's no finish line for that. Like, it's just you're constantly going, which is the beauty of it in a way too.
Yeah, but what is the finish line? Is the finish line to be right about what to call it, or is the finish line to understand how it affects us?
Yeah.
It's just, and we could attach those things to these daily conversations, like empathy, humility, and ego, how we deal with failure, our emotions, our relationships. It could all be intertwined into a deeper understanding of life. And I think that's what we need to, I think that's the aim, rather than an afterlife, creationism. I don't think that's the real, for me at least, I can't see that being the true purpose.
That is a really awesome way to frame it too, because if you go at it from that angle where you just want to understand like life on a deeper level, it allows you to be more present, and just focus on like everything now and what you can do better, and sort of like move the needle forward for the next like generation to come, you can say. That's like extremely deep. But talking about like the finish line of things in a way, and like being on sort of the macro level, I want to ask you, what would be a nice end goal for you, or like a great achievement, a dream of yours that you want to achieve or move as close as possible to becoming for you? Like a very macro and like end goal type question.
To bring it back to like something tangible, something more tangible, because we're talking about a lot about spirituality and stuff. In rap, being, or holding the title of greatest rapper alive is a goal of mine. Like being the one seed in music, in rap music, and in music in its entirety. I really I want to be the best. Of course, I want to be commercially successful as well. But I can't, as far as specifics, I can't really, I just know right now I have to go.
Yeah. Go time.
Yeah, like I just right now, that's all I really know right now. And I think that state is, I can't derive from that state. And I could worry about, like I said, smaller goals. I can't, I think that's going to hinder me if I try to, find small joys here and there right now. I can't really shift the gears in my brain right now. So,
as I can see, and people who listen to this can see, and people who listen to your music, hopefully they know and get that you're super present, intentional, and you're taking full action right now. And as for like the end goal, I think that's beautifully put, that you're just detaching yourself from that outcome, but knowing like doing all you can to perfect what you have now. You're improving yourself in full, and as our slogan goes, improve yourself, impact lives. Like, you're well on your way to doing that.
Thank you.
It's really awesome to see, and just knowing you for a short time, I feel connected to you through your music, and now like through talking to you. Music really has the power to change the world, and like really open up people's minds and give people a different perspective. So for that, and like all the work you're doing, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That means, I just want to share, because I feel like I have something to say, and explaining all my beliefs, learning more as I go along is like, just what I wanna
Yeah,
do.
and like as you learn more, like we're all learning as well from that.
And even if like somebody, you know, if somebody disagrees with me, at least it's gonna be something to talk about.
Exactly.
Like starting a conversation of things that aren't talked about and spoken about.
Yeah, enough ignoring and more.
Yeah, like
more
just
talking.
digging deep about certain topics, not just having the conversation on a surface level, like you said.
Well, I'll put all his stuff in the show notes, Marcus Charles. But bro, I'm gonna have to play this back myself multiple times, seriously, because like I've never been more immersed in a conversation in my life.
That's dope.
And I really appreciate that. I hope people feel the same way. And if you want to end with anything on your mind, whatever. If not, we'll cut the line here.
I feel like there needs to be some final words. So
give me ending words of what's your like a mantra for life, a mantra for going forward.
I used to have this older one a couple of years ago. I don't really stick to mantras because I feel like life is just complex that it might need, you know, a million mantras, you know. But
it's always beautiful when it's boiled down to the most simple thing. So
so
I'm sure you're about to do that.
I had this one that goes like, do what you want, do what you need to do, but do them both well. And I think, you know, whatever you want to accomplish in life, don't slack on it. Like if we're gonna have a conversation about bringing up untalked about conversations, let's really do it. If I'm gonna make music that connects with people, let me do my best to do it, you know. And there's gonna be requirements for that. There's gonna be my own personal selfish desires in that, but I'm not gonna I'm gonna do it. I have to do everything well. Everything that's great in this world to change the world comes from somebody that said, I want to get this done.
Yeah.
And literally everything that you look at is somebody having an idea and then completing the idea.
Yeah, and like that's a great way to put it too, as I sit around a room with all these amazing figures and thought leaders and people. So that's a great way to end it. No. Awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, bro. What's up, everyone? Thank you for listening to episode number 27 with Marcus. Absolute gems within this episode, and all his work is a gem within itself. If you sort of leached on and were attracted to the things he said or his music and projects himself, please continue to watch what he's doing, not only for learning for yourself, but to observe and learn from being a creative, if you are that. And as for a little plug for Dream Big, when this podcast releases the next couple days after that, specifically on the 24th of June, we will have our second spotlight coming out with an amazing individual, someone that will truly, truly impact you and influence you in whatever spectrum of life, facet or field you're in. And as for yourself, to end this, continue to hone in on your craft, continue to be a learner, thinker, observer, and stop judging yourself. Be more forgiving for the things you do right and wrong. We're all learning as we go. We're all figuring it out as we go. Have a great, great week, and we'll see you on the other side.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.